Hello, this is Frida Liu. You're watching The Shift Asia. Farm Konekt is an impact-focused, community-based farm management platform for data-centric cluster production. What that means, we'll find out in just a moment. How do they plan to innovate agriculture? I think that's basically the crux of what we're going to be discussing. I'm here with the founder, Vincent Gastanes, out in the Philippines. Kamusta, John?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
It's so interesting. I'm looking at it and I'm trying to understand it. But before we get into your business proper or what you're trying to do, what's your background, John, and how did you end up starting Farm Konekt?
Well, by the way, Miss Frida, thank you for the time. First thing first, to all your viewers, I would like to share, by the way, I'm John Gastanes, and my background is in development management. That's my discipline. So I graduated my master's in social entrepreneurship in the Ancient Institute of Management. But originally, I'm a waiter who left his American dream and started a community-based group of associations of farmers in Palawan that later on I tried to innovate how to really work with those community leaders. And from there, I created the first ever community organizing platform for the agriculture and fishery industry.
Okay, so now you've got this platform. Now, before we get to the platform, and I'm just wondering whether the stories are similar out here in Malaysia, but when you talk about fishermen and the farmers, right, what is the plight out there in the Philippines?
Absolutely. Majority of our producers in the country,
Right.
we have, by the way, 9 million farmers, according to some data that we got from the Ministry of Agriculture in the Philippines or Department of Agriculture. But the most active ones is around 4 million farmers.
Right.
And out of it, majority of the percentages are smallholder farmers with less than 1 hectare, which is, by the way, 80% of the world production. That majority are really smallholder farmers with less than 1 hectare. And that's the same model in the Philippines. These are the so-called backyard farmers.
Right.
So that's for the agriculture industry. So imagine, without the economies of scale, yes, they have a land, yes, they have the skill set, but the ability to do collective bargaining or somehow to have a collective strategy on to design the costing for a certain production to manage the demand and supply is not available for the smallholder farmers community in the Philippines. The same goes with the fisher folks because a lot of them are smallholder design. A lot of them are, getting a lot of challenges in financing the boat or the fuel that is used for the boat. By the way, just to give you a background, my ancestors are all fishermen. My grand is a fisherman.
Okay.
It's just that my dad and his brother studied well, political science and law school. That's why they're in the professional field.
Right.
But all my playmates when I was young are fisher folks.
Right.
So that's the reason why I know the struggle of having not enough money to fund your boats to go fishing. And that's where they end up borrowing money from traders.
Right.
And the traders start to own them, not as somebody who will earn from the fishing, but actually just like a staff where
Right.
they don't really get too much share, but just salary. But they're the one really risking their lives in the sea, that's the sector of the fishery industry. So you see two sectors here: the fishing industry with no enough funding to fund whatever capability they have to catch fishes. You have the smallholder farmers who have a small size of land and lack the ability to do the economies of scale or the
Right.
collective
Bargaining.
bargaining for the cost. Yeah.
Okay, and then you're just talking about the fishermen. So they're always constantly in debt as well when they're always on loan, right? And so I get it. So now you've got the power of of volume in that sense, right? But what was it like setting it up and getting up and running and getting them on board? What was that like in what you were trying to do?
Well, because in any innovation, in any technology, adoption is not easy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of innovators out there feels how I feel. Especially the major challenge is we're talking with smallholder farmers or fisher folks with the educational background is not too in depth in terms of level. A majority of our players only finish. I'm not telling it's bad, but somehow it's a challenge.
Right.
That some of them would just finish kindergarten, elementary, and did not push any other schooling, which makes it challenging for the app users to adopt technology. But then again, when you think about it, there's a lot of farmers now who watches TikTok and then they watch YouTube to watch some techniques on doing agricultural or even fishing techniques. And somehow at first our major challenge is how do we use those kind of experience and transfer it to an app where people can just organize themselves through an app. And that is really challenging. First is the adoption. Then second of the challenge is really because our system is a community clustering platform, which means
Okay.
one farmer leader will have to manage four of his families or friends to
Right.
manage data, and they get revenue from that data. What I'm
Right.
trying to say here is, out of that four people, of course you will have conflict, right? Not all the
Okay.
time. Sometimes even in our relationships, we have
Yes.
issues, right? Like in our love
It's
lives,
always
we got
people.
conflict.
There's nothing wrong with technology, it's the people.
So sometimes I so called it human being is a wicked problem,
Right.
and it needs a lot of grace, I guess, to manage relationships. And one of the things that we had to develop as a tech company is not just the experience in using the technology, but how to manage relationships. That's
Mm,
why, together with our app, we develop so-called servant leadership labs,
right.
where our farmer leaders who uses our app goes through our training, where they can experience the potential challenge of doing the business model with us, which is managing relationship, their clusters, their friends, and we're giving them ability to comprehend how to manage, in a sense, conflict as leader because they're the
Right.
farmer leader using the app because it's a farmer leader app. When
Right.
you say the leader, it comes with the responsibility and ability to duplicate whatever you're doing.
Right.
So that requires a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. But of course, because different people, different ability to comprehend struggles or conflicts that required really intensive, I guess, sessions with our farmer leader app users, which cost a lot in the capacity building. By the way, that's where we really invest a lot in the capacity building cost, and that's where a lot of our development partners give us grants because that's the
Right.
highest cost in doing this business.
Okay. And I was just looking at your website as well and the kind of services that you have. And I'm sure you've just told me the story, but maybe we'll just go through the different kinds of services and what it aims to resolve. You've got the matchmaking integration. What happens there?
Oh, absolutely. So what happens is that once we have a farmer leader who builds his team of five,
Mm,
so a typical association and cooperative in the Philippines is composed of at least 15 members to 30 to 50 to even thousands.
mm,
And what we did is we kind of like strategize it. By the way, I'm a fan of reading the Bible, by the way, I
mhm.
just have that faith. By the way, one of the strategies I saw there is when there is a chapter there where Jesus fed the 5,000, we had to group people by groups. And
Yeah.
my strategy is to group people themselves to a certain granular level where you have one leader who would monitor five people. And
Right.
all of those data goes to one dashboard.
Right.
And that dashboard is connected to trading centers,
Okay.
connected to factories,
Mm,
and groceries, so does retail distribution. And those data are used for them to integrate their actual supply to these integrators. We call them integrators, our market buyers. But pretty much what we offer is just a service fee, wherein all these big companies who would like to push an ESG driven supply chain
Ah.
can work with us. Not everybody's, of course, would do fair trading when it comes to agriculture because of price points or issues. But we usually work with government-owned trading centers, companies who are really pushing ESG-driven or for social impact, those kind of clientele customer segments. So we work with them in doing the matchmaking services to make sure that they really work with smallholder farmers and not traders
Right.
or rich farmers already. I can give the market for those rich farmers or traders, but I'm here to take care of the smallholder farmers and fisher folks. So
Right.
that's the matchmaking services.
Right. Okay. And what about the financing and agri-tech integration?
Good. That is our latest business model. We're currently working with one of the biggest fintech in the Philippines. To give you a context, Philippines, one of the biggest challenges is financing the smallholder
Yeah.
farmers and fisher folks, whether they're cooperative or individual.
Mm,
But we do have a law that is kind of like pushing banks to invest on farmers, to do, financing for the farming industry and the fishery industry. But the major challenge is the due diligence because a lot of banks find it hard to offer loans to
mm,
one farmer because of the risk. Because there's a lot of things to consider in the agriculture industry. They find it hard to work with group of people
mm.
unless, of course, you can collectively gather them in an efficient manner. But let's be honest, the banking system the corporate banking system is not designed for that. Or
Right.
maybe even the rural banks are challenged in doing that unless you go in front of them and show them that, hey, I have this
Mm.
group. And to be honest, also some association and cooperative find it hard to comply with administrative requirements. So what Farm Connect did is, because we have a data and we have a group of farmer leaders already, we can easily allow them to go through the process of endorsing them to the government, and the government would assist them to get certifications and then get this identity as a cooperative or association or as an individual farmer who will have a good track record, because our
Mm.
system has the ability to show your sales
Mm.
throughout the month. So that will be allowed by the bank to trust us that, okay, once Farm Connect user apps comes in the ecosystem, we can vouch that this farmer group or this individual farmer cluster composed of 5 people has a certain capability to pay the debt, because
Right.
there's a group of people who can pay the debt.
Right.
Second is there's economies of scale. And second, there's an assurance because our integrators in the matchmaking gives us a certain purchase order that assures that there is somebody to pay the loan.
Right.
And the difference
Okay.
is the interest rate. Of course, we negotiated with the partners to really make it fair so that the cost of the production will not go high.
Right. So you're basically the middleman trying to bridge that gap between corporate and what, collectively what they can benefit, but maybe individually they will have an issue, right? You also have data insights. What do you do with that?
Oh, very good. For example, ma'am, we work with big companies and even development partners. For example, we work with ADB. We work with partners like USAID, and a lot of these partners, even government agencies, would love to get the insights of the smallholder farmers the most efficient manner. For example, we try to study sustainable agricultural practices for a certain cluster in Bimpiaga. Because, by the way, we're part of the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, East ASEAN growth area.
Right.
We are actually the second grantee to do a multi-country project.
Right.
Yeah, we're really humbled. It's funded by the South Korean government. We were able to get at least 300,000 US dollars to do this clustering for the 4 countries. But the idea here is there are different questions in, for example, sustainable agricultural practices. And what we do is we have an app that we develop for governments or partner technicians who are monitoring the clusters. So we give them an access to that app. And that app has the ability to also do its own survey, to do its random sampling that allows us to get data insights. For example, for the good agricultural practices, we try to study among all the farmers that we have in our app, how many of them are really interested in good agricultural practices. And you'll be shocked on the results. Like, a lot of farmer knows a bit about sustainability, but they're not willing to practice unless there is a monetary value for them. So those kind of results are usually will come from our data insight services, and companies would pay us for that, especially if they would like to know the behavior, what's the most used technology, what's the most used fertilizer. So those are the
Right.
things that we can do in the system, and companies would like to work with us on doing that studies.
Okay, so you're saying that you've gone beyond the shores of the Philippines. You're working with what? Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and
Indonesia is what will penetrate soon, and once we
okay.
have
What? And this is supported by the Korean government. You're saying?
GGGI, the GGI BKCF of the South Korean government, who
Right.
works now in Piaga.
Right, and they are the reason they're working together to support this cluster. What's the purpose?
Well, for them, it's really because in that cooperation, we're working with areas with high poverty incidents. And for us, because our advocacy is to work with smallholder farmers and fisher folks, what we wanted is to integrate this smallholder farmers and fisher folks who are below which is in the poverty incidence rate, sector, and then integrate them to the industry players who are, by the way, also big companies, whether they're government-owned companies, whether they're Bimpiaga Business Council companies, and integrate them to the ecosystem so that they can easily have a consolidate. They can act as consolidators, as cooperatives. So they use pretty much our platform to integrate to the buyers, but at the same time, use our insights to guide the government on policy decision making, because we also sit under the agribusiness working group where governments, ministries of the 4 country seats, and they
Right.
usually ask us for insights so that there can be guidance on the policy making side of the
Right.
government. For example, for carbon credits in agriculture, we're trying to lobby in the environmental and agribusiness clusters of the four countries to reconsider giving incentives on carbon credits and natural capital for those farmers who protect their agro-industrial land or mangroves near their farm. So those are
Mm.
the things that that we really discuss as we sit on that policy making body as a grantee of GGI.
Right. Okay. And I guess moving forward, what kind of partners are you looking for, and your future plans?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity because I believe there's a lot of viewers here and listeners who are into sustainability. And what we're looking for is really people who would like to integrate with us. First is
Okay.
for the matchmaking services. If
Right.
you're a company who has a heart for metrics to really, measure the social impact of the supplies that you're acquiring from different suppliers in the Philippines, soon expanding in Malaysia, we have slowly moving in Brunei, and Indonesia will come in soon. We're just fixing first the three countries. But what I'm trying to say, if you're a company who's willing to integrate your supply from the smallholder farmers we work with in cluster using our app, you can connect with us. Second is if you're a fintech, if you're into offering financing to these smallholder farmers, we can give you a big market share. I just want to share to our audience right now that I actually was able to sign already the memorandum of agreement that our country, the
Mhm.
Department of Trade, Department of Agriculture, will officially use Farm Connect as the official clustering platform for the country. So in case
Wow.
you want to work with the clusters in the Philippines or your banking, fintech, you can work with us. Oh, and soon I will also have a signing in Malaysia.
Right.
We will have a tech company partnership there. As we will prototype first with some partners from Sarawak who will work with us. You can integrate with us on that. And
Excellent.
yeah, so which is not only includes fintech, also agritech. For example, ma'am, you have a technology or innovation that you want to market your technology to our app cluster users. For example, in Philippines alone, 150,000 farmer members from 500 cooperatives were endorsed to us. I have thousands of farmers in Palawan, one of the Bimpiaga sub-region. And of course, a lot of our clusters would definitely be a market for your agriculture technology. So that's
Mm.
also an opportunity for you to work with us if you have an innovation that you want to introduce.
Right.
And of course, if you're a company or development partner, foundations, NGOs who would like to consider our data insights, we have farmer leaders on the ground and farmer technician who are with the government who's using our app, so we can help you doing those data insights for the agriculture and fishery industry.
Right. So lots of information and lots of ways we can partner together. Fascinating work that you're doing there, John. And I wish you all the best. Of course, I've been speaking to Farm Connect out in the Philippines, and you've been watching the Shift Asia.